Everyone, welcome to yet another video. In this one we'll be talking about how we can integrate GPT APIs in our Node application. So what we'll be doing is that we'll be creating a Node application from scratch and we will integrate the GPT API. So probably we'll be writing a custom server in Node and we'll be calling the GPT APIs from that server, getting the response back, and we'll try to show that response on the browser. So here I have the VS Code open and there is an empty directory. I have named it NodeGPT integrate. So the first thing we'll do here is that we're gonna initialize it as a node directory. So I'm gonna fire on the npm init command and it asks me for a package, which I'll probably say it's good to have GPT integrate. Version is okay. Description, for the description I can probably go on with node GPT integration tests probably. This looks good actually. Yeah, no GPT integration tests. Entry point can be index.js. I will leave the test command and the git repo and keywords for now. In author I can type my name. License can be empty, and this is the current configuration which it shows, and I am okay with this config, so I'll type yes. And yeah, this is done. So when this is over, it will automatically create a package.json file with all the configuration which we have entered previously. So you can see them in the main there is index.js. So we'll do the same thing. We'll create an index.js file here. Yeah, and we'll write our custom server logic here. We have our index file ready. We have created this. So I'm gonna write some boilerplate code here so that we can have a server ready and we can call it accordingly, right? Okay, so before moving, we'll first use the HTTP module in order to call the server. So I'm gonna just write const HTTP require HTTP so that we have the HTTP module with us. Now I'm gonna create a server here. So in order to create a server, we have to have this HTTP module, and now I'm gonna simply call create server method here, which will be able to return a server after creating it. So this can take some request and response parameters and it can return accordingly. So what we can do is that we can write our boilerplate code to play around with request and responses, and we can make our changes accordingly. So we have request and response references here. So I'm just gonna, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna just send a status code of 200, right? And I'm gonna set the header. So in the header, I will set the content type to be basic text or a plain text, right? And at the end, I'm gonna end this, meaning we cannot perform any modification with the response we are sending it. And while I'm ending, I'm gonna send hi there. So what will happen is that whenever we will try to contact this server, the server will return a response with a hi there and a status code of 200. Now, once the server is ready, we have to make it listen to one of our ports, right? So I'll tell the server to listen to port number 3000. And now in the package.json file, in the start command, we have made sure that we run this node index.js, so that index.js is triggered as the entry point whenever we start our application. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna start this again using npm start command, and you will see that our server has been started. GPT integrate 1.0 started. So I'm gonna pull out a browser tab here. I'm gonna simply run localhost 3000 because this is the port which you are listening to. Okay, let me run it again. Okay, let me check. Okay, there is some issue. Restaurant status code 200. Status code is not okay. I think we have written a wrong method here. Let me quickly correct it. Restaurant status code. Okay, so restaurant status code is not a method. We have to basically assign a 200 code parameter here. Okay, good. This looks much better. So I'm gonna again run the localhost, or basically run the command prompt. Okay, let's start the application here. Yeah, this has started now, and what we can do is that I'm gonna pull out the new browser and I can again, okay, so we can see the browser, the server is sending us a response of hi there. And if I even inspect it in the network tab as well, if I click on, we can see the localhost is responding us with a status code of 200 and a text plain response, which we have mentioned that they're in the content type, and the content is here. The response is basically hi there. So this is what we are trying to achieve here. This is good, this is correct. We have written the basic boilerplate code to create a server and send out some response. Now moving ahead, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna integrate the ChatGPT API. We're gonna send some human prompt to the GPT API, and we're gonna receive some actual responses, and we're gonna show that responses on our browser. Okay, so now we have our basic server ready. So we entered into the localhost port 3000, and we got a response back from our server of hi there. Now moving ahead, what we are planning to is that we are planning to integrate the ChatGPT API. So that is the main part here. So before that, we have to include some of, basically we have to install some of the required module in order to integrate with the GPT API. And the first thing we'll do is that we'll install a LangChain library. So basically what is happening here is that we are using the ChatGPT model from the LangChain. So in the Lang graph, there is an implementation of GPT module. We're going to integrate that and call that module to integrate with our actual ChatGPT API. So this is the command here. If you'll see, npm install LangChain LangGraph. We're going to use that. We're going to install it. It will take some time, but once this is done, it will create a directory here inside with name node modules, where will be like all the dependencies which we have currently installed will be present there. Okay, so now we have written this index file where we are writing the server, and we have also installed the dependency. So you can see this node module here, where we will see the OpenAI or the LangChain library here, right? We have installed it now. Now after installing it, we're gonna import it as well. So we'll import the OpenAI module from the LangChain. So here it is. There are LangChain community, LangGraph, and LangChain OpenAI. We're gonna import LangChain OpenAI here. So we have this OpenAI imported with us. Now it's time to do things step by step. So the first thing, or the first step we're gonna do is that we're gonna create a model or initialize a model. So how we do that? We're gonna name a model as const model, and what we'll do is that we're gonna use that OpenAI module which we have initialized or imported earlier, and we're gonna create a, okay, so this is a chat OpenAI model which we're gonna create, and we're gonna, so currently we don't have any parameters, but we can see like what it demands actually. So if we hover over it, we can okay, if we hover over it, we can see here it says that to use you should have an OpenAPI key, and that's correct. We're gonna come to that point later. But apart from that, it also says how we can use it. So it says we initialize the model, we need to give a temperature and the name of the model. Even if we don't give a name of the model, the default model will be GPT 3.5 turbo, and the temperature would be 0.9. So for the sake of this tutorial, what I'm gonna do is that I will not change the name of the model. I'm fine with this model, but I'm gonna change the temperature. So basically, if you increase the temperature, the model will allow different probabilistic answer to be there present in your responses. But if we reduce the temperature, it will solely or basically it will solely focus on the highest probability answer. So currently the temperature looks pretty high. I'm gonna reduce it to maybe 0 for the sake of this. So I'm only passing the temperature variable here, right, making it a 0. this is done. Now after that, once we have the model created, what we can do is that we need to make an API call, right? Okay, so in order to make an API call, we first have to have a message ready for us what we want to ask the GPT, and then we can get the response. So for what I can ask, let's say, can you tell me some tips to ace software engineering interviews? Okay, I hope I haven't made any typo. Cool. So can you tell me some tips, or can you give me some tips to ace software engineering interviews? Yeah, so I want, like, I'm asking GPT to give me some tips in order to ace the software engineering interviews. Maybe I have my interviews coming up, so I'm gonna receive the response here like this, and I'm gonna invoke this model with my message here. So this invoke method, what it will do is that it will gonna get the message and it will gonna return us with a base chat model or an AI message chunk. Okay, it will gonna return with an AI message so that we can get the data. So this is it's an async method. It returns a promise. So it returns a promise of AI message chunk. So we can't call it directly like this. We have to wait for this. We have to wait till this message returns the response, and then we can capture it here. And I can think we are getting some error here. Await expressions. Okay, so this entire method is not an async method, and that is why we are getting this error. So I'm gonna quickly make it an async method. Okay, this looks better. And after that, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna send this response to the browser. So instead of hi there, I'm gonna use this response here, and this should work. But currently if I'm gonna try this will not work because I don't have a Open API key with me. So if you are watching this tutorial, you have to make sure that you declare your OpenAI key like this. So whatever OpenAI key is yours, your Open API key, right? So this is currently a dummy key. I'm not going to disclose my Open API key here in the lecture, but yeah, you need to get your Open API key and you need to put here so that this Open API key is here initialized, and then you can actually make a call and you can actually get a response. And I will also show in this lecture ahead that how you can get your own API Open API key. We have written our code. I have pasted my OpenAI key here in this code base so that we can actually make a call. So in order to make a call, we have to start our app here. So I'm gonna write npm start, and this is started. Okay, cool, this looks good. Now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna open up my browser here. Okay, cool. So let me localhost. I am okay. This failed. Okay, I can see there is some error here, which I have previously tried as well. It was giving me some error. It says the chunk argument must be of type string, and it is receiving an AI message. That is a problem actually. So if I want to know what the issue is that this response we are receiving here from the model is a AI message chunk, and the response is expecting a string here. So whatever we are giving in the response, we are sending in a response should be a string or a plain text, because we are specifying the header that the response will specifically be a text or a plain text type. So we cannot send directly the AI message chunk, right? So within this AI message chunk, there is a field called content, and this actually contains the content of the response of the GPT API. So whatever response you are getting in return from the GPT will be stored here in the content. Apart from that, there are a lot of other metadata as well, which is there in this response, which we can get, which you can see actually if we log the entire response object. So let's log the response object as well so that we can see how the response will look like. Okay, cool. Now when I will run again, it should get started with some warnings that always happens in software engineering. and now I'm gonna reload it here. So this time it shouldn't fail, it should actually give me some responses received from GPT. If the OpenAI works, and yep, that is true, it is working. GPT has given me some responses, and actually this is good. It has given me some pointers. So first is study and understand the fundamentals. Make sure you have a strong fundamental of data structure algorithms. So get DSA everywhere, guys. System design concept, practice solving. Okay, practice coding regularly to improve your problem solving. Oh, this is good, this is good. Research the company. Okay, this is a great content. Like GPT is actually sending me some responses, and this is actually looking nice. And yeah, so this is only the content part of the response. We also have to see what we got logged, and we are logging the entire responses, remember? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to again see. So you can see in the log we have the response. So this is the entire response here. Within that, in the content, you can see the actual content which we printed on the browser, but apart from that there are rest of the other metadata as well. Right, so this is the entire AIMessage object, and this is how you actually integrate with the GPT API and you send the responses. Now, as I mentioned, we also wanted to discuss how you can get a GPT key, and that is pretty simple. You can simply go to the GPT developer console and you can create a new API key, and if your phone number is unique, you maybe get some GPT credit. Otherwise you have to purchase some credit. I purchased $10 credits so that I can make some calls. Maybe you can purchase minimum you can purchase $5 credits in order to like make some actual calls. So I can show you my dashboard here. This looks like this. So I'm gonna make it to the size of the screen. Okay, so this is my GPT dashboard, right? If I go to the settings, you can see a lot of informations here. In billing, you can see I have $9 credits left, and if I go to the dashboard and I see the usage, you can see that I have made a lot of requests, right, to the GPT model currently. And this is the way the API keys, you can create your API key. I'm not gonna go there, maybe, although it does not show the API key, but yeah, if you click here on the API key, you can create your own API key, and you can like paste that API key here, because like remember, the API key is a one-time key, so you cannot see it once it is created. So it is important that once you create, you copy that API key and keep it with yourself in a safe place. And when you are using it here, you paste the API key in the process environment variable, and then you are good to go. You can use this model and you can actually make some calls to the GPT.